Do you dream?
Oh, yes, I do. I've actually been reading books about lucid dreaming. Thank you so much, Chris, for introducing me. And I'm in my studio right now. I think I'll just show you around. I just kind of made the studio. I took down the walls, put the drywall up, and up here I have some 3D prints that I've been working on. And here's a giant painting. I'm still working on this, and I'll just show you a little bit. I don't know if you can see outside, I have a lovely view of a forest. So it's quite nice here. My work is, I'm primarily interested in data visualization and the ways in which we experience data, differently, if it's represented in a new way or with a different material. And I'm interested in sudden awakenings, like epiphanies, where all of a sudden, like you'll have an experience where you will come to a realization, and you won't know like where it came from, but it's like so in the body. It's such like an embodied experience. And this painting right here that I'm still working on is a representation of the vowel sound ah. So I'm doing a whole series on vowel sounds, and I've been creating languages. I'd like to create languages with colors and shapes, and then with those languages I represent information, and in this case a vibration. I'll go ahead and I'll share. I got some images that I can share of my work, and I'm going to start with the most recent work that I've been working on. These are also representations of the vowel sound ah, and I'm planning on working with all the vowel sounds, but I started with ah, and I've been working with these like stupa forms. I got really fascinated with these different systems, mystical systems for representing the relationship between the self and the world, like cosmologies. And stupa is a way of representing cosmology, and the stupa is a form, and it's a physical form. And so these are all representing the vowel sound ah. And here's some silk screens that I did. Here's a painting. And so this is the most recent work that I've done. I'm going to talk about my work in a way I've never talked about it before. I'm going to go backwards because I don't know how much time I might get cut off. I've also done some silk screen. I like to explore different materials and different technology and different mediums. And I did a whole series of prayer flags where I printed didactics of research related to some of the research that I was doing when I was working on my doctorate. It had to do with language and cognition and semiotics and how information is processed in our brain. I've also been exploring 3D printing. These are some 3D printed prayer beads that are kind of, they're coded. So all of these are based on a binary code, and they're kind of circular. It's like you're going around and around in these sort of prayer beads of information encoded. This is a digital piece that I did. Let me see if I can. It's actually an algorithm, and it represents the history of Chinese dynasties over 4,000 years. I'd have to get out of the presentation to show it. I don't know if I have time to do this, but basically each one of these little shapes is representing a year, and then as it continues to grow, maybe I'll show it at the end, towards the end. As it continues to come out from the spiral, you'll see the name and the date change in the middle, so you can see what emperor was around at that time. And so it's like a history of dynasties in China. Here's a mural piece that I did at Mason Gross, where I represented the stock value for 3 media corporations over the course of 3 years. And with these diamonds here, And you can see, you can't really see in maybe this image, but at the top I put also the gross domestic product of each country that the media corporation was in. So it's this conversation about money and media. I did this back in 2012, 2011, a while ago. And then before that, I was in Thailand. And I was asked by this abbot of this hilltop temple to paint some of my work, and these stupa forms represent imports and exports of different countries in Southeast Asia. And I wrote really close. You can see, if you got close up, you could see I wrote some text so you can read what information is being represented. But it's quite an honor. I got to work with teaching some children how to speak English, and I got to work in this temple painting these stupas. And then afterwards, they invited me back to paint another painting on a water tower at this temple. And the size of each of these circles represents the amount of renewable water resources in different countries in the area. And I have a little key at the bottom so someone can come and they can read it. And it was also translated into Thai, so anyone who doesn't speak English could also read it. And I was also kind of playing with these stupa forms when I was there. And these are based on agricultural data that I was looking at. Here's another sculpture that I did about almost 10 years ago, which is based on a lingam, which is a ritual object in India, where it's a representation of Shiva, and often rituals would take place where they would pour milk or honey on top of it. And I put another coded color language of flowers stringing around the base that represents wave forms that you might experience when going into a dream state. And the little grooves on this represent the amount of money spent on different food, different families of food of a particular group of people in India. And so I was thinking about sort of physical, the body, and the need to take care of the body, but also the entering these other states of consciousness with the coded flowers of brainwaves. Here's another piece that I did. This is based on agricultural data in China, and it kind of spirals out. This is kind of, some of my work is, you can read it, you can read the information. This is more, encoded. You're not so sure what the information is. I give some hints, but it'd be kind of difficult to read it. So some of my pieces are I allow you to enter into that dialogue, and some pieces are more esoteric. Here's another piece where I'm representing imports and exports with stripes and a colored language. Here's a piece where I'm representing different like coffee production and taxation of different countries and CO2 levels, and trying to, see information in a new way. I'm kind of in this one being kind of playful with the data that I'm representing, but it's also, I'm attempting to make a connection with fractals and fractal shapes, and this a kind of idea that mathematically there are these algorithms that can be used to to see the structures in nature and like our blood vessels and trees and branching out, trying to relate that with something that's going on in terms of our cognition. Here's a piece. These are like pie graphs. And I did this piece where I represented, the bottom is representing how men spend their time during a day. And the middle one is how women spend their time during a day. And then the top is the average between the two. In this piece, I gave a key so you could read the pie graphs and see the relationships if you wanted to, or you could just enjoy it. I see my work functioning on three main levels: the visceral, kind of precognitive, where you're kind of in awe of the image, And then there's the other dimension of metaphor, where you start to make relationships between different shapes and forms, and you start making connections. And then there's the third layer of content, which is the data that I'm kind of playing with in these paintings that you have some access to. This is another painting. You're about ready to, yeah, so this is another painting I could show, and I know I'm almost done, so I'll just show some prints that I have here. Here's another silk screen on photography. And then here's another. So yeah, does anyone have any questions about what I'm doing? Yes.
Hi, my name is Anisha Perone. I'm from Niwot, Colorado. And I'm interested in the work that you do with the stupas, and I'm sure that you're aware of the fact that stupas have thousands of little Buddhas inside of the stupas themselves, and each one has certain prayers that they're that are associated with that Buddha. And so you don't see any of this. And so my question was, do you see the way that you do the logarithms and encode your work, do you see it in a similar manner as that?
As Buddhas, like inside of the, because if you look at the stupa, I mean, it's there are some images that show how it relates with different chakras throughout the body. And so I kind of see the stupa as kind of a physical kind of manifestation of the mandala, the kind of flat mandalas that we're maybe more familiar with, where you see the gates and of like the Tibetan ones in particular. So I see them as that they kind of like really relate with the body, and that relates in my mind to embodiment. How do we embody this information? And how do we, take this information that's perceived outside of ourselves and somewhat, bring it into our kind of cognitive process, and that's all kind of through our body. So I don't know, I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but
like in the stupas, energetically, I mean, everything has a purpose. So that even the wood that is used, a special monk will go out and say prayers as to which wood they're going to collect for that. And energetically, each of those little Buddhas, they don't show.
mm-hmm.
And it's just like us, we see a body, but we have a lifetime of information, of emotions, of experiences. And so I was just wondering, energetically, is that what you're seeing as far as encoding each one of your pieces with something that actually is manifesting that outer image?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, I think there is a part of that. Some of it is, like I feel overwhelmed on a regular basis with the amount of information that is out there, and to kind of sift through it. And whatever it is that we look at, there's so many levels, so many layers that we don't see. And there's a part of me that's kind of curious about what's behind that curtain. What's kind of driving all of these kind of invisible forces. And so yeah, certainly I think that's like a really great example of that sort of way of dealing with information that we don't see, and how it's sort of embodied in whatever the form is, but we don't have access to it all for whatever reason. But thank you for that. I hope I'm able to, that kind of answered your question.
And I really like one piece you talk about media and cooperation at a gallery space. Funny enough, the corner, each piece, they have a camera, surveillance camera up there. Did you install that or they were just there? I found just like perfect for
Yeah,
that piece.
it was just there. There was a surveillance camera there, and so I kind of wanted to include it in the piece. So very kind of site specific. And yeah, thank you for noticing that. And then also, the vowel sounds. I mean, it's like the sort of building blocks of our way in which we communicate. You know, um, so thanks so much for
Bye.
having me. Bye bye.